Okay, 大家好, hi guys, it's Janae, and welcome back, well, not to my channel, but to my Twitch, for the time being at least. We are gonna be having the read-alongs here. I'm really hoping that it didn't mess anything up, because I'm very used to streaming through YouTube, and I haven't streamed through Twitch in a very long time, and even when I did stream through Twitch before, it used to be through the Twitch app, and now I'm using OBS. So I'm just hoping that the sound is okay, that the notifications get sent out. This is all feeling very new to me because it's been so long since I've been on Twitch. But anyway, I also haven't quite figured out how we're going to be managing the comments during this, because with YouTube I could just very easily pop the comments out, and that doesn't seem to be an option, I don't think. Oh, I can pop it out. Okay, great. We're gonna be doing that. I don't know if anyone will actually be showing up for this, so I might just be talking to myself for the majority of the time, but that is fine. If you catch this on replay, I hope you will still enjoy this. The plan at the moment is basically I get to leave it up on YouTube for sorry, not on YouTube, on Twitch for I think 5 days, if I'm not misremembering. After which I am going to be moving it over to YouTube. Ideally, what I would like is for it to, once it's down here, immediately move it onto my main channel, my normal channel that you guys know and love, hopefully. But yeah, that'd be the ideal. We'll just have to see if I do get my channel back. If not, this is going to be going on the new channel, the backup channel. But for now, I would rather not think about it. I hope I'm live. It would be very awkward if I wasn't live, but I think... Yeah, okay, no. It says I'm supposed to be live. But yeah, otherwise, if you're new here, hi, I'm Janae. I read anime mostly, and we are currently busy with Mordu, which is a priest novel, or novel by a priest. And yeah, I usually take a 10-minute break on the hour, and we just read along until we have the full 2 hours done, usually. And I have tea and coffee here with me that changes between the 2 breaks. So yeah, I think that's more or less it. I think we can basically get started. I did double check, I think we're at the right spot. Hi! So bear with me. I hope that there isn't too much lagging and things going on. I did have a YouTube video just run me through everything again to make sure that I wasn't messing things up unnecessarily, but you never know. Okay, let us get going. And I do have coffee here with me. So just to quickly recap, we left off with them deducing that the person who murdered Dong Cheng with the Dong Chao with the hidden rung was also the same person who set fire to their house. So, and we had our first kiss in the previous live, so that was insane. Okay, let me just grab the chat again. There you go. It's a bit laggy. Your screen is frozen. Is the screen frozen, or is my face frozen? Because the screen I haven't moved yet, so that should be fine. But if my face is frozen, that might be a problem. However, I feel like as long as the audio isn't lagging, I'm not too worried about the visuals. Okay. Camera as well. That is very strange. Hi. I'm not sure what to do about that. I tried to make sure that the output wasn't too high for what I was doing. Let's just double check here. up. Okay, we'll have to take it as it comes with today's stream, and I will see if I can fiddle around with it a little bit more before the next stream, if that's okay with you guys. Oh goodness, there's a lot more people here than I was expecting, especially for the first Twitch stream in a while. Okay, chapter 78, Macbeth 16. Fei had gone upstairs. There was a click, as if he'd locked the door from inside. Noodles sighed silently, forcing his attention back to the phone, saying to Taran, "You're saying someone set the Dong house on fire? Was there worth burning in the Dong house?" Taran looked up at the scene of desolation in Dong Xiaoqing's burned house. Strictly speaking, the circumstances weren't all that grave. The fire had started in the living room and burned up a good part of the furniture and blackened the walls. The TV's carbon fiber frame had melted a little, but the wall the TV was on and the surrounding cabinets were all right, and in a drawer, the property ownership certificate, bank book, and other such important items were unscathed. That is very interesting. Like, that's a very sloppily done arson job if they weren't after something very specific. But also, like, my fear with these things is the other apartments being affected by the fire as well. Like, because then you involve absolute innocents who don't even know to expect anything like this. We've investigated the Dong family 3 times over, including the father and daughter's browsing history, emails, and social media. We also searched the house. If we somehow still missed something, either it was something very unremarkable, Rowendo interrupted him. No, that's too big a scope. Or it wasn't in the house at all at the time. Taran didn't get angry at all over being interrupted. He hurriedly added the end of his sentence and, after pausing, asked, "Do you have something pressing to take care of over there?" Rowendo was at a loss for words. Taran said very understandingly, "Then let's hang up. When I've finished taking care of things here, I'll give you a report." We love a good wingman. Reading between the lines here. Taran, wait, Rowendo said quickly. The complexity of the thing may exceed what we imagine. Be careful when you're out in the field. Starting from now, no one taking part in this investigation is permitted to operate on his own. Taran had worked with him for many years. Hearing his anxiety, he smoothly acknowledged, "Got it," then hung up the phone. Deputy Captain Tao Haiyang, the rims of his eyes red, came over. It was the paper. I think the criminal's aim was the paper product he used to light the couch on fire. Taran said, "For what reason?" When one residence catches fire in the type of building, the neighbors to either side will report it very quickly. Unless he made sure the thing he wanted was entirely burned up, it's likely some trace would have been left behind because it hadn't finished burning. Haiyang's speech inadvertently sped up even more. Also, Dong Qian's level of education wasn't high. I've been to the house a few times. Aside from a few advertisements someone had shoved in, there were no books in the living room. Everything needed for writing and drawing was in Dong Xiaoqing's study. After the arsonist on the security camera footage broke into the Dong house, he stayed a full 10 minutes. It doesn't take that long to start a fire. He must have been looking for something. After he found it, he lit it on fire, made sure it was nearly burned up, then threw it onto the couch, lighting up the whole room. Taran frowned. Don't you think that's strange? Since this person could get into Dong Xiaoqing's house without anyone the wiser, couldn't he have just taken whatever he wanted? Why did he have to set the room on fire, making such a commotion and leaving an impression of himself? Was he purposefully calling the police to investigate an arson? That's a fair question. Haiyang stared, reduced to silence. Haiyang, I have a feeling that in his eyes, whatever Dong Xiaoqing had wasn't any particular amazing secret. Making such a mystical production of burning it, it's to provoke us. Taran pointed at his phone. Go investigate whether it really was Dong Xiaoqing who sent you the text message, or if someone stole her phone number. Shao Haiyang put a hand on the phone, but his feet didn't move. Deputy Captain Tao, is Dong Xiaoqing really dead? Lang Chao had sent the photographs of the scene to Taran, and Dong Xiaoqing herself was already in the hands of the medical examiners. Taran sighed and patted Shao Haiyang on the shoulder. I talked to her quite a few times, and I privately assessed her. She absolutely wasn't the sort of person to pick up a knife and harm someone. Even though she had negative emotions, they were aimed at the people accusing her father. She never directed her anger towards the car crash victims' relatives. Shao Haiyang said. She stabbed someone, and immediately afterwards the criminal ran her over to shut her up, and a house was burned at the same time. There must be someone behind this manipulating. Taran slowly put Shao Haiyang's phone out of his hand. He saw that it was open on the news site Shao Haiyang had been looking at. Oh no, almost just like, you're here and welcome. um, 14 minutes, not that late. We have just been going over Taran and Shah Haiyang speculating as to the motives of the arsonist. Um, hmm. Zhou Haijin and his brother being attacked at the hospital door had already become public. The report only had a brief line of news, simply naming the casualties and identifying the killer. But the onlookers were all exhibiting their imaginations to add what they thought was an appropriate sequence of cause and effect to the bizarre story. Shah Haiyang's voice shook somewhat. She wasn't like they're saying, really. When he was alive, my shifu asked me something. Taran gave the phone back to Shao Haiyang. The old fellow asked me, do you believe that heaven's law is clear and brings appropriate retribution? Shao Haiyang stared blankly at him. I said of course I couldn't believe it. Wasn't that feudal superstition? Anyway, the old sayings are always self-contradictory. Sometimes they'll say heaven's law is clear and brings appropriate retribution, and sometimes they'll say the good don't live long, a Scrooge lasts 1,000 years. You don't know who to listen to, Taran laughed. My Shufu said you must believe it because you're a criminal policeman. When you're chasing down suspected killers, you are heaven's law. The reason those words are feudal superstition is because you're useless, because you can't find the truth and clear away an injustice. Oh, damn! Those are rough words, but the sense isn't rough. Let's encourage each other, little comrade. Start with a text message. Don't waste time beating your head against a brick wall. Go on. Shah Haiyang opened his mouth, pushed up his glasses, and quickly went to ask for technical assistance. Taoren looked around the disordered scene of the fire. He sighed, perhaps because he just mentioned Yang Zhengfeng to little glasses. He subconsciously got out his phone, hesitated, then opened 0-hour reading. Oh goodness, okay. The newest guided reading topic threw itself into his eyes. So foul and fair a day I have not seen. Macbeth. Contributor, the Reciter. 88.6 FM. Were Yang Zhengfeng's dying words. Only Taran had heard them, under extremely frantic circumstances. He hadn't even had a recorder on him at the time. There was no evidence apart from his disordered memories. After Lu Wenzhou had pointed out the suspicious point of the underpass, the police had constructed a route investigation into those questionable last words. They turned the head of the radio program and the relevant personnel upside down, but they'd come up empty-handed. Any way you looked at it, it wasn't an audiobook program for the amusement of a minority of the population. Sorry, it was. It wasn't. The conclusion issued by the investigation team was that the portable radio in Yang Zhengfeng's pocket had fallen out in the struggle and had been turned to that frequency. Taran may have inadvertently heard a voice announcing the frequency on the radio and under the circumstances had experienced some cognitive dissonance. Taran hadn't given up. He'd pursued the program on his own for 2 months. Aside from doing the equivalent of retaking middle school extracurricular reading, he'd come up with nothing. Even he would have accepted the cognitive dissonance explanation, if not for the fact that he developed a habit of listening to audiobooks and, whiling away the time when he was bored, discovering the ID, the Reciter. Yeah, that is the ID that I am personally a little bit concerned about because it keeps popping up. By the way, I joined your Discord from the link to, at your. Is that okay? I'm not a paid member. Yeah, no, it's fine. The Discord is a public Discord. There's a channel for the members, but the Discord itself is public. You're fine. Sorry, I lost my place. Before, the Reciter wouldn't necessarily appear once in a whole year. Taran had suspected that he was jumping at shadows, and that there wasn't anything wrong with the books this person chose. But this year, there had been 3 cases in a row, all faintly reflected in the wholly unrelated reading program. Thank you, I'm so glad he's seeing it. If it was a coincidence, then it really was too coincidental. Standing in the scorched living room after the fire had been put out, Taran stared at the subject line for a full minute, then gave a light shiver. On the other end, Zhou, heavily weighed down, hung up the phone and walked a few circles around the living room on his own. He decided to go upstairs to see Fei. When he reached the stairs, he inadvertently looked down and saw the path to the basement. Zhou's steps suddenly paused. He somehow remembered Feidu's description of the basement on the road to Hung Ai Hospital. Zhou's feet, prepared to climb the stairs, inexplicably turned and headed down. There was a bend in the stairs leading to the basement that kept the light from upstairs from shining in. The surroundings became increasingly dim. There was an additional security door installed at the end of the stairs with a keypad lock on it. Zhou exchanged a helpless look with the keypad lock, got out his phone, and called Fei. That is such a new age thing to do. I'm too lazy to go and ask. I'm just gonna pick up my phone and call. Where are the days where we didn't have that luxury? It disconnected after 2 rings. The owner of the phone upstairs evidently didn't want to talk to him. Zhou opened the keypad for entering the code and examined it for a moment. He found there was also an alarm attached. That was to say, if someone tried to force the door or enter the wrong code, an alarm like the wailing of a ghost and howling of wolves would go up over the whole villa. Maybe the alarm will startle the quail upstairs. It's more civilized than kicking down the door anyway. I feel it's either going to be his mom's birthday or it's going to be the day of that he found his mom dead. And both are kind of grim in their own right. That lousy idea appeared in Zhou's mind. While the wounds on his back wouldn't get in the way, they still hurt pretty badly. He didn't want to kick down doors today. He reached out a boorish paw, carelessly entered 6 digits on the keypad, then quickly blocked his ears. But after a moment, the expected alarm didn't come. The light on the security door flashed twice. There was a click, and the lock slid open. What was the passcode that you used? Law and Jaw, dot dot dot. He awkwardly put the hands blocking his ears, put down the hands blocking his ears, and stared at the security door in front of him. He only then realized that he just entered the date of Feidu's mother's death. He is truly the definition of an emo boy, and I say that with all the love. I have to make light of this because otherwise I'm gonna cry. Lorenzo absolutely hadn't expected to have the dumb luck of accidentally guessing the code. He was dumbfounded for a good while. He hesitated, looked upstairs, and gave Feidu another call. This time, the phone was simply off. Well, don't blame me, Lorenzo whispered. I take silence as acquiescence. With justice on his side, he entered the resident's most secret corner. He encountered the underground gloomy dampness, turned on the lights, and immediately froze. Do I want to know? The basement didn't contain the desk Feidu had spoken of. It was very open and spacious. The floor, the walls, the cabinets, the ceiling, all of it was white. In the midst of it was a luxurious projection setup, with a screen as big as one in a movie theatre's small screening theatre. Right across from the screen was a reclining chair. There were belts on the chair and a computer next to it, along with some complicated equipment for an unknown purpose. There was also a small refrigerator. This is starting to look like a torture chair. My goodness. For no reason, Lorenzo's palms broke out in a cold sweat. He gently opened the small fridge. There were some small medicine bottles in it, the labels all written in some unknown foreign language. He couldn't understand them. Please tell me he's like... Obviously, the creepy part of this would be him experimenting on his father or something like that. The sad part of this would be him experimenting on himself. Perhaps it was his mistaken impression, but he seemed to faintly smell a trace of blood. What had Feidu been up to here? In an instant, Lorenzo's heart rate sped up to 150. For a space of time, his mind went blank, and he nearly froze in place, 10,000 bees flying around his ears. After a good while, he gently bit his tongue and shook his head hard, gaze travelling all around. He thought, no, that's not it. There aren't any convenient weapons here. Given Feidu's weak constitution, if he really wanted to do anything, he couldn't very well do it barehanded. No, I don't want to know ahead of time. No spoilers, no spoilers. Lorenzo struggled to calm down and looked carefully at the belts on the chair. His heart, which had come up to his throat, crashed back down into his chest. Lorenzo breathed a sigh of relief. He found that he was jumping at shadows. The belts on the reclining chair were fashioned like safety belts. You could fasten and unfasten them yourself. It wouldn't be very useful for a murder and dismemberment. Now my brain is just going to like Feidu having to teach himself to drive, and I don't think that's what's going on. I just find the idea of it funny because my dad was so adamant about safety belts when I was little that once I went and I sat down in a movie theater and I reached for my safety belts. So that just came into mind. Hmm. He touched the leather recliner, took separate photographs of the inexplicable instruments and the drugs, and stealthily sent them to Lang Chao, telling her to investigate what these things were. There was a set of headphones hanging on the back of the recliner. Lorenzo picked them up and brought them close to his ear, turning on the audiovisual equipment. First, the unhurried music of You Raise Me Up flowed into his ears over the extremely high quality headphones. Lorenzo had never noticed how pretty the song was. He was just sighing over the truth that expensive electronic equipment really was better when, without any warning, a hysterical scream suddenly stabbed through the music. Though Lorenzo's psychological quality was superb, he still gave a fierce shudder. Then the large screen suddenly lit up. He swiftly looked up. There was a direct broadcast of a murder playing on it. This was a deranged homicidal maniac from abroad from a few years ago. The killer had already been given an injection and sent to their foreign god, and the video had been taken care of by the government, though it was still going around on the dark web. The victim in the video screamed like a dying farm animal, the sound of the scream intertwining with the music on the exquisitely good headphones, like two whips flogging your soul. Oh, that's a grim description. Lorenzo, unable to stand it any longer, tore off the headphones and fast-forwarded. There followed videos of beheadings, videos of execution by firing squad, videos of extremist organizations abusing prisoners of war and hostages, blood and bloody photographs. Oh goodness. Lorenzo's phone, which was on vibrate, buzzed suddenly. He gave a start, nearly dropping the phone onto the ground. His voice sounded off when he picked up. Hello? Boss, where are you? Can you talk? Young Chow asked, keeping her voice low. Have you wandered into some kind of underground rehab center? Okay, so what I'm thinking is there's two possibilities for this, and the one I much prefer above the other. The one is that this is kind of like an equivalent of torture porn, like he enjoys watching this, which I don't think that's the case, but I do have to throw that out as being one of the two plausible explanations in my mind. And the other one, which is the one that I think is much more likely, is he's trying to desensitize himself of blood, and he thinks that if he exposes himself to very grim videos like this, it'll help him desensitize himself. I found someone to have a look at those photographs you sent, said Lang Chao. That electric shock equipment and the drugs are emetics, tranquilizers, and some others. Lorenzo didn't clearly hear what she said afterwards. Fedu's ability to vomit himself into dehydration at the sight of blood, the ceaseless trembling of his hands just now, the constant repetition of the song. It seemed that all of it had an explanation. Now we just have to see, like, what conclusion Lorenzo comes to, because the conclusion he comes to might not be the right one. Let's see. Slowly lies down and plays Hello Darkness, my old friend. Pretty is how I thought of this song before Modu. Oh goodness. Dying Priest for making this give me chills now. I have to say, I'm intrigued to go rewatch the only 8 episodes of Justice in the Dark that we have, and see how I feel about it in retrospect. Chapter 79, Macbeth 20. Hello? 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 When no one spoke at the other end, Lang Chao at once became rather nervous. Are you still there, boss? Give me a peep. You're not making any sound is making me panic. Okay, Lorenzo answered absently. I'm alright. When he had finished, he didn't listen to Lang Chao jabbering, but hung up the phone on his own initiative. There was no ventilation in the basement. The air was still. Against the white background, a faint smell of blood permeated the air. There was a long hair. There was a long hair caught on the headphones, hanging on the back of the chair. Lorenzo carefully plucked it off, his fingers brushing over the cold back of the recliner. The confining belts showed clear traces of wear and tear. This was a typical setup for aversion therapy. Okay, so he's kind of coming to the right conclusions here. Where the screen projected images, the stimulus of the electric shocks and the drugs would force the person who had bound himself to the recliner to establish a conditional reflex, making him associate the deeply ingrained pain with the images he was seeing, triggering a psychological loathing, with the aim. Oh, okay. Okay, so that might not be good, with the aim of correcting some type of behavior or some type of thought. So, Lowendra's thinking that Fei isn't averse to these images and he's trying to force himself to be averse to them. Somehow, I don't know if I believe that. I'm wanting not to believe it. The human body was like a precise instrument. Seeing delicious food, it would crave it. Seeing a beautiful person, it would be attracted. It would feel pain when beaten, shed tears when heartbroken. Each type of sensation corresponded to a feeling transmitted by the sensory organs. A rough aversion therapy was like pulling out the wires of the human body and forcing them into incongruous ports, and using a soldering iron to reinforce the connection. But how could a flesh and blood human being become a circuit board? Have his connections casually switched? Even a circuit board might short circuit under that kind of personalized modification. So what about a living body? The corner of Lowendra's eyes twitched fiercely, remembering Feidu's ever-changing tattoo. Was that to hide scars? Were his frequent trips back here to come to the place and recharge his batteries? Wasn't he afraid he'd accidentally do himself some irreparable harm? He might even simply kill himself, and his body would rot in the black and lightless basement. No one would find it for months. A well-fed, well-dressed young master, exquisite down to the frames of his glasses. Wasn't he afraid of becoming a heap of rotting meat, being revealed under the light of day along with maggots? Not him, like, in the middle of this grim thought, just casually throwing in that Feidu was a well-fed, well-dressed young master, exquisite down to the frame of his glasses. Like, let's just casually add that into the despair, why don't we? Alright, maybe Feidu really wasn't afraid. He had absolutely no reverence for life and death, no care whatsoever for his body. He'd stopped at nothing because it seemed he really didn't care about anything. If he croaked here one day, he'd likely still be very calm. He didn't care who he went around with, didn't care who he slept with. Everything about him was a large whatever, and yet he'd still rather come here alone and tie himself to this electric chair, playing with his life, rather than leak the tiniest bit of sincere speech to anyone. So close yet so far, like, it's almost like Law enjoys seeing him for who he actually is, and at the same time he's completely missing it. Wrapped up in the gloomy atmosphere of the basement, when the initial shock and profusion of feelings had passed, an anger boiled up in Lowendraw that made him dizzy. He'd have loved nothing better than to charge up to the second floor and break Feidu's door down. Drag him to the bathroom sink and teach him a good lesson with cold water. Time after time, the person had disregarded his warnings, trailed after him pretending to be in absolute earnest, until he'd been ready to take him seriously, ready to take him into his heart. No. One step forward and 500,000 steps back, damn it. It turned out that he'd only been diverting himself before retreating to his own windowless, doorless bastion, coldly keeping everyone 1,000 li away. Insulting himself this way, he was also insulting others' regard. Lorenzo turned and left the basement, charging up to the second floor in a few steps. Feidu hadn't gone to the room he'd stayed in when he'd been a teenager. Instead, he'd occupied the bedroom where his mother had killed herself. This is not healthy. This is not mentally healthy for him, I don't feel. There wasn't a good sound. There wasn't a sound inside the room. He was holed up in there, doing who knew what. Lorenzo concentrated, then knocked on the door. Feidu's eyes moved slightly, a bit of living energy suddenly appearing in his eyes like glass marbles. He looked quietly at the door. Lorenzo said, "Feidu, open the door. I have something to say to you." Feidu stared at the door, not moving a muscle. He thought of something, and the corners of his mouth suddenly went up gently in a half smile, as if he were watching a movie and anticipating some plot points. Lorenzo paused, then issued an ultimatum in a heavy voice. "You're shutting me out. Feidu, I'm giving you another half a minute, and if you still haven't opened up, I won't come knock on your door again." No, I hate that. I'm stressed. There was a rattan rocking chair in the bedroom by the window, overlooking the house's little garden, though now all you could see was a field of limestone slabs. There was really nothing attractive. Feidu stretched out his legs and indolently leaned back in the rattan chair. At his movements, the bird's nest-like chair rocked lightly. Hearing Lorenzo's words, he uncompromisingly lowered his eyes, looking out the window. "Then don't knock," he thought apathetically. "Leave." The second hand of the clock on the wall didn't miss a beat. As good as his word, Lorenzo waited exactly half a minute. Then the sound of his even footsteps came from outside, knocking on the stairs one after another, gradually getting further, gradually becoming inaudible. No. I hate this. Feidu was silent for a moment, then turned on the light screen at the head of the bed, connected to the security camera at the front door, and, as expected, saw Lorenzo open the door, leave the unlucky abode, get in the car, and go. Now I'm depressed. I want to be angry with Lorenzo for not seeing through Feidu's barriers that he's putting up. But on the other hand, there's something to be said for only really trying so much before you kind of start to wonder if you're imposing on someone's will or like overstaying your welcome. I think it's a very hard thing to try and balance. Feidu stared off the lousy car for a while. His gaze was limited by the camera lens, and the car quickly vanished. He thought there was absolutely nothing stirring in his heart. Only, like at that moment, he had witnessed Zhou Huaixin's body. It was as if he'd driven over a pebble in the road, another lurch. Though perhaps this time what he'd driven over had been a brick. The car slanted at a rather large angle. Feidu thought, too bad. Next time I go to the city bureau, there'll be another frosty look. But that didn't matter. He wouldn't stay long at the city bureau anyway. The car that had driven over the brick was still functioning properly. A few bumps and it would continue going forward. This wouldn't get in the way of anything. That's the sound of someone like justifying pushing their body and mind past its limits and thinking it's just going to keep on going like normal. He silently closed his eyes. Perhaps the low blood sugar and dehydration after throwing up hadn't been fully alleviated. He still felt exhausted. He'd meant to get rid of Law and Joe, then go to the basement for a while, but he was so tired he didn't want to move at all. From resting his eyes, he shifted right into light sleep. As he dozed, perhaps remembering and perhaps dreaming in his half-sleep, half-wakeful state, he thought of something that had happened when he'd been a teenager. At that time, he really hadn't wanted to live with others. He dismissed all the housekeepers, but he didn't know how to do anything himself, so he had to regularly go to Taran's house to scrounge some food. That day, he'd gone to the police station as usual to wait for Taran to get off work. I can't remember, because we had the revelation in the show about the Game Boy or whatever it was. And I can't remember if we've had that same revelation in the novel yet as well. I think we have. So I'm wondering what this memory is going to be. Sorry, I'm just... While passing through an estate, he'd encountered an altercation between the property management and the property owners. They were all talking at once, about to break out into a brawl. The cops had been called to break it up. The cops were Law and Joe and Taran. Pedro saw them from afar. He saw Law and Joe standing like a male model among the babbling middle-aged and elderly representatives of the property owner and property management, like an actor from an idol drama who'd mistakenly ended up in the cast of a domestic sitcom, unusually awkward and out of key. The two young police lackeys tried to cajole the community dispute to a resolution, running up against a new problem as soon as they'd solved an old one. Pushed and pulled back and forth by both sides, restrained by his position, Law and Joe bore with it for 5 minutes. I thought it'd be longer than that. Then presumably had borne it up to his limit. He exploded into a rage, wading into the battle as a third party, one against two, launching an indiscriminate attack while Taran sweated in the background. I can just picture it. Oh my goodness, that is hilarious. But it does, it fully makes sense why Taran is so cool as a cucumber now, because he's been seeing it for years and years and years. He's so used to it by this point. And in fact, Law and Joe's probably a lot more chill now than he was back then. Because of the great scoundrel's combat strength was unsurpassed, the two sides that had originally been fighting each other had no choice but to temporarily reconcile, presenting a unified front. Law and Joe had unexpectedly achieved the result of resolving a civil dispute. When Law and Joe when Taran had dragged him away, Law and Joe turned back and called from a distance, "Go register a complaint. Don't be cowards. If you don't dare, you're a bunch of losers. Grandpa's badge number is XXXXX. Oh my goodness. This is hilarious. Taran, filled with dread, covered his mouth. Unable to speak with his mouth, Master Law had to put up with second best, sticking up his middle finger at the legion of old ladies that had dared to hinder him. Oh my goodness. That is so funny. Walking by at a distance, Fedu could still hear him heroically announcing to the heavens, "Nothing but trifles all month, and they want to order me around? What the hell am I doing being a cop? I don't wait on people. Oh my goodness. Terence said, "You can't throw away your work ID." He hadn't finished the sentence when across the street a pickpocket snatched a girl's wallet. Lowenjaw entirely forgot that he'd just thrown his work ID into the garbage can. Like a well-trained great Pyrenees, he howled, "Stop!" and gave chase, enveloped in flames of war. Afterwards, the thief had been caught and the girl who'd lost her wallet treated them to skewers. Feidu scrounged a meal. He didn't know why he remembered it so clearly. He could even clearly see the order the dishes were served in. Perhaps it was because the food had been so inedible. That is totally why. Keep telling yourself that. In the twilight glow, they were surrounded by boasting people with bottles of beer in their mouths. The scent of cumin and chili powder wrapped in recycled cooking oil floated for 10 li around. All around was the noise and smoke of humanity, all the people sitting there sweating like rain. As usual, Feidu hadn't wanted to talk. He'd had something to drink, then sat quietly to one side, playing on his game machine. Right, supposedly Lowenjaw had been the one to buy the game machine. No wonder he'd looked at it quite a few times. Lowenjaw had distastefully passed him a mushroom skewer. "Taran, going out for skewers is a grown-up pastime. What are you always taking him around for? Hey, you eat mushrooms, right? You shouldn't be here. You don't fit in." "Don't fit in?" Feidu smiled. He didn't want to fit in. After they'd said goodbye to the owner of the stolen property, history's most unreliable people's police officer, Comrade Lowenjaw, ran grovelling back to the scene and exchanged a helpless look with the garbage can that had swallowed his work ID. Making a face that could have amused Feidu for a whole year, he tried his luck for 3 minutes, then pulled a length of iron wire from his pocket to pick the garbage can's lock. Oh my goodness. The sound of the picked lock clicking open seemed to ring in his ears. Feidu woke up a little. Just then, a draft passed over the back of his neck, and he froze at once, looking over in disbelief, stupefied to find that Lowenjaw, who had gotten into his car and driven away, had returned, and he had a length of iron wire in his hand. Stop, that made me so happy. He did say he would not knock on the door again. He didn't knock. For a second, like, as I was listening to what we were experiencing here, I thought he was gonna be stood having picked the lock of one of the windows. So he didn't go through a door, he went through a window. But then I remembered what he actually said. Oh my goodness. That is just the best. Well, that is the hot-headed young Lao Luo. Not the battle-hardened captain of the SID yet. Yeah, no, definitely. Cao Cao's just zen about all things Lowenjaw, whether the brash or the naughty. I am so happy that this went this way because I had assumed Lowenjaw would come around and like gain some perspective. I just feared that it would take a while. So I'm actually really glad it didn't. The guy really was an experienced burglar. Lowenjaw stuck the wire in his pocket. "I said I wasn't gonna knock again. Get out of there." Seeing Feidu frozen, not making a sound, Lowenjaw, brooking no argument, charged in and lifted him to his feet. "What time do you call this?" Feidu answered instinctively. 6:30? Lowenjaw choked at the answer, raised a hand to smack the back of Feidu's neck. "Do I need you to tell me that?" Can't I tell time? You're still sitting here meditating at this hour. Haven't you eaten? Feidu had been sitting too long. His legs were rather numb. He tottered the whole way as Lowenjaw dragged him, then was even more shocked when he saw the side dishes on the dining room table, along with very complicated-looking noodles. Just when I thought it couldn't get any better, oh my goodness. The noodles cooked in the little pot were still steaming. The kitchen, purely decorative for 10,000 years, had actually opened for business. The whole desolate first floor was filled with strange cooking smells, turning the whole atmosphere of the haunted house strange. There aren't enough of your lousy supermarkets around here. I had to drive around for 10 kilometers to buy groceries. What's the benefit of living in the damn place aside from acting like a prick and flaunting your wealth? Lowenjaw picked up a bowl and asked, "Do you eat water-cooled noodles?" Feidu hadn't yet had time to nod when Lowenjaw issued a viewpoint in his place. "When you've just thrown up, you'd better make do with something hot." I mean, he hasn't thrown up in a while. But fair, I guess. Feidu, ... Then why did you ask? He thought he had no appetite. Every time he'd been tormented half to death by being sick of blood or other things, he'd gone to the hospital to be put on an IV drip. But he took the bowl from Lowendraw's hand and accidentally ate all of it. The noodles had been cooked to moderate firmness, a little chewy, but not hard to digest. He felt warm when he swallowed them, the ice-cold stone in his stomach quietly thawing. Hey wait, I don't... Feidu put down his chopsticks and was about to say something when Lowenjaw uncompromisingly took his bowl and refilled it. He's giving mother hen in the best way possible. "When you're finished eating, come back to work overtime with me," Lowenjaw said. "No rest this weekend." Feidu, ... Lowenjaw raised his eyelids and looked at him. "Do you have any objections?" Feidu quietly took the bowl. "No, none. Based on my experience, when you're unsatisfied 8 or 9 out of 10 times, there are 2 basic reasons," Lowenjaw suddenly said after waiting quietly for him to finish eating. "The first is that you haven't had enough to eat, and the second is that you haven't slept well." Feidu stared. "Drinking sugar water and taking sleep aids don't count." Lowenjaw looked at him meaningfully. Before Feidu could react, he added, "The remaining 1 or 2 times, the circumstances are rather complicated. This is what I wanted to tell you last time in front of Su Xiaolan's box of ashes. Later, I forgot." "Okay." Feidu indicated that he was all ears. "Go wash the dishes. Don't use the dishwasher for a lousy couple of dishes like this," said Lowenjaw. "I've put dish soap and a dish rag there. First wipe away the grease, then rinse it with water. Do you know how to?" Feidu, ... "If you don't know how, you can learn slowly," Lowenjaw said. "The person who cooks doesn't do dishes. That's a basic principle." This was not what I think he wanted to share, so I understand why Feidu is flabbergasted. Who knew whether Feidu had ever washed a dish in his life? He hesitated, then went. Lowenjaw wasn't worried about him dropping a dish and breaking it. Anyway, he had the money. When a person's been burned to ashes and become about the same as a piece of appetite? Okay? There's nothing there worth revering. So why do we treat it like a big deal? Lowenjaw crossed his arms and said from behind Feidu, "Why are there holidays to mark the beginning and end of each year? Why do you have to make a public confession and stroll around in the streets together before getting into bed with someone? Why, to live together legally, in addition to needing a certificate, do you need to invite your friends and family to a useless ceremony? Because life and death, dark and light, parting and meeting, all have the meanings people have endowed them with. You can't see them or touch them. You don't know what use they have. But the difference between you and me and a lump of chemicals lies in those bits of meaning. Very well put, damn. Feidu paused. Lonjo reached around him from behind and took his wrist, guiding him to put the clean bowl back into the original place. If you don't understand, I can tell you later slowly. You called me, and that's a ceremony too. I gave you the chance to repent. Now it's too late for returns. Come on, let's go back to the city bureau. And with that, I feel like he basically just proposed to Feidu, because proposals and weddings and ceremonies only have as much weight as you give them, and I'm giving it a lot of meaning. So I think he just proposed, and we're halfway to a happy marriage. Okay, I'm gonna take my 10-minute break now. I just quickly want to check through these comments. His same shameless and as crazy as we do, smacking sense into the cats. Dwar's whole aesthetic got fudged up. Lalu's excellent male wife skills to the rescue. That's some of them. No dishwashers. Okay, that makes more sense. Oh goodness, that was very glorious and much happier of a chapter ending than I was anticipating. So I will see you guys again at 10 past. Okay, we are back. Sorry, I uh, had to take tea to my parents, and that threw off my timing a little bit. Anyway, let's quickly bring up the chat again. Okay, I have new tea for myself as well, and I think we can just get going again. Okay, chapter 80, Macbeth 21. Nang Chao didn't know what was going on with Lu Wenzhou. She waited with her heart in her throat for ages, thinking their captain, China, had once again gone in alone to some spider demon's cavern of silken webs. She didn't dare to leave, prepared for him to call for backup. In the end, no cry for help came. She only received an order to keep her mouth shut. Lu Wenzhou said, "Keep what I asked you about before a secret. If you behave, I'll bring you some red braised pork another day. If you dare to leak it, you'll be the main ingredient." Lang Chao, ... She thought that if her willpower had been a little weaker, she would have become the first eldest princess in human history to commit patricide over red braised pork. My goodness. As policewoman Lang cursed her boss for a scoundrel, she ungrudgingly arranged the information related to all sides of Zhou Junmao's case. The whole day of sudden happenings was truly dazzling. The whole city was welcoming the weekend while looking on at the wealthy family drama. Only the city bureau, with a new wave rising as soon as the last one had calmed, was still working overtime. I arranged to go see a movie with a schoolmate this weekend. Lang Chao hung off the door of the conference room, pressing her finger to her eyelids to avoid unnecessary lines around her eyes. Face expressionless, she wailed, "Why do we have to work overtime again? It's such a pain. Honestly, I do kind of wonder if they have any form of personal life with how often it seems they work overtime." Lu Wenzhou quickly walked up behind her, casually asking, "A male classmate or a female classmate?" Lang Chao said, "Female. What do you want to hang around with a bunch of girls all day for? You aren't a lesbian?" Lu Wenzhou carelessly waved a hand. I'm glad he considered that possibility, because I was about to suggest, you can't say that. What if she's a lesbian? But he considered that, and apparently, according to his knowledge, she's not. So we appreciate. Lu Wenzhou carelessly waved a hand. It's better to work overtime than to go to a movie with a girl. At least here you'll get the princess treatment. You don't want to know what the princess has been thinking up until this point. Good grief, what rotten country's princess gets ordered around like a donkey? The kind that's doomed to total annihilation and the burning of its ancestral tombs, I think. Lang Chao rolled her eyes at Lu Wenzhou's back, then gave Fei Du a strange look. "Hey, President Fei, why haven't you left yet?" Fei Du didn't answer, because he'd pondered it the whole way and still couldn't understand why he, as a temporary member of staff, had to come back to ungrudgingly work overtime with them. Therefore, he could only smile at Lang Chao. I love that he as well is confused, but he's not gonna admit that to Lang Chao. When he came into the conference room and sat down, Fei Du finally said to to Lu Wenzhou, "I don't think I get overtime pay." "No need to think. You don't even get a salary. Just a bit of a subsidiary for the project," Lu Wenzhou said. Without waiting for Fei Du to answer, he added, "Though, given our salary, the difference between having it and not having it is the difference between 0 and nearly 0. Do you care? Fei do, ... Luanzhou had stolen his lines, leaving nothing behind. There was no place to start ridiculing. He could only straighten his clothes and sit upright. As soon as she entered the conference room, Lang Chao professionally set aside her cherished idea of a movie and gave a careful analysis of the state of affairs. Right now, there are two things that we can basically determine. First, Zhou Huijin's kidnapping really was a performance he put on himself. Hu Jianye was evidently his accomplice, and he's been brought along for questioning as well. Second, Zhou Huixin really was killed by Dong Xiaoqing. There are security camera tapes and eyewitnesses, no room for dispute. But we have no clear suspect or motive for Dong Xiaoqing being killed in order to silence her soon after, nor for the fire set at her house. But, according to our inferences, it's likely to be related to Dong Xiaoqing's objective to assassinate Zhou Huijin. How is it Zhou Huijin now? Luanzhou asked. How is Zhou Huijin now? Luanzhou asked. In custody, said Lang Chao, but his mental state is very bad. He's been curled up in a chair ever since he got here, holding his head and not making a sound. We brought him food and water, but he hasn't moved. He's been fasting up until now. Oh, that's not good. Also, let me just double check if the audio is... Yeah, okay, no, the audio is fine. I just suddenly got very paranoid. What are the circumstances with Dong Qian and Dong Xiaoqing? Dong Qian was reticent. He normally had contact with few friends or family members. Taran picked up the subject. Pretty much the only people he had relative close dealings with were his co-workers at the fleet. Because the customers he accepted jobs from weren't fixed, he didn't always drive the same route, so he didn't regularly visit any service stations or eateries. But his co-workers did remember something. Haiyang, you found it. Come tell us about it. Okay, thank you. Named without warning, Xiao Haiyang stared, subconsciously standing up. Yes, sir. A good number of hands reached out from beside him to pull him down. Talk sitting down. Xiao Haiyang lowered his head awkwardly and pushed at his glasses, switching over to rapid fire mode. That would be me. I feel like I relate to Xiao Haiyang so much. Dong Qian's co-workers remembered that he often shopped online. Express delivery people were always looking for him. On average, he received 2 or 3 packages every week. I investigated the father and the daughter's online shopping record and found that Dong Qian's frequency of ordering online really had been very high for the last year, and the frequency of returning goods had also been high. Luanzhou looked up. Get right to the important point. Do you think there's a problem with the express delivery or with the seller? The express delivery, Xiao Haiyang answered without thinking. Over 80% of the goods he returned had been delivered by the same express delivery company called Quick Conveyance Express Delivery. I looked into it. Because of its slow delivery speed, high prices, and irregular management, the company's market share is currently very low. In a survey of online shopping, less than 5% of businesses used quick conveyance. Meanwhile, over 50% of the goods Dong Qian received were delivered by quick conveyance, a 10-fold difference. It can't be coincidence. Was he like smuggling drugs on the side, or what was going on? Luanzhou nodded. That makes sense. And so? If the paper document that the arsonist burned was an important item, it would have been hard for us to miss it when we were investigating him. But what if, while we were searching, that document was on the way? It usually takes quick conveyance express delivery 3 or 5 days to deliver within the same city. That makes the right time difference. Having heard this much, Luanzhou's expression sank. He interrupted, using his full name, Shaohaiyang. Are these pure guesses, or do you have some basis? Shaohaiyang hesitated somewhat in front of his forceful question. I have a basis. Don't play stupid with me. Luanzhou's tone became stern. Everyone on the team is here now. If you have something to say, say it. I know your brain is up to it. Sorry, I don't know why I found that so funny. In order to guarantee that the thing wouldn't fall into the hands of the police, the person who had sent the express delivery package had purposefully used a delivery service that took most of a week to deliver within the same city. But how could he have guaranteed that the police would have finished all they needed to do for their investigation within those 3 or 5 days? If the police had been insufficient and spent a couple of weeks investigating, wouldn't the package have arrived right in front of them? What Shaohaiyang had just said seemed reasonable, but in fact there was an implication in it, hinting that they had a traitor. Yeah, I was about to say that would mean they have someone in the force who could estimate the amount of time that it would take for them to investigate. There was something else about this that was bothering me. No, I can't think now. Maybe it'll come to me a bit later again. When this little glasses had something to say, he was categorically unwilling to come right out and say it. He always had to dodge around it. Perhaps this bad habit was left behind from the Flower Market District Sub-Bureau. The first time Luanzhou and the others had come to look at He Zhongyi's body, he had put on an act of being a hothead who couldn't control his mouth, to hint that the place where the body had been dumped wasn't the place where the murder had been committed. This was the same old trick now. Luanzhou said, "What's the basis for your judgment?" Shaohaiyang slowly lowered his eyes. Through his glasses, he met his young superior's eyes. I requested that the Quick Conveyance Express Delivery Company submit to me all the express delivery orders and information, and found that before Dong Qian died, there was a package sent from his fleet to the Dong house. Ah, there we go. Okay, sorry, give me a second. Okay, there's a person here in chat, but I'm sorry, it kind of looks like a bot. Just don't click on any links, guys. Okay, I will try and figure out how to manage the chat next time round, just to be safe. Okay, getting back to it. Oh, I wanted to say, like, every single time they say Quick Convergence Express Delivery Company, for some reason I keep thinking like master airplane shooting towards the sky, like it gives the same amount of mouthfulness. Yeah, guys, just ignore it. I'm so sorry, I don't know how to remove it. My inexperience is showing. Shaohaiyang said if Dong Qian really did assassinate Zhou Junmao, he used the method of the car crash to make it unnoticeable, making people think it was an accident. So what would he leave Dong Xiaoqing? The identity of the person who wanted Zhou Jin dead? Or a vindication of himself for being the real murderer? That doesn't make sense. Unless he wanted to put his daughter in danger or make her suffer her whole life. Yeah, that is true. Oh, sorry, I realized I missed a paragraph. Let me just quickly. Fei put in a word. You just said there was a package sent, not Dong Qian sent home a package. So Officer Shao, you think that Dong Qian didn't send that package himself? Okay, that makes more sense then. What you mean is someone sent something to Dong Xiaoqing to incite her to kill Zhou Huaijin. Then, to prevent those things from reaching the police via Dong Xiaoqing, he silenced her, and at the same time set her house on fire. Lu Wenzhou fixed his eyes on Xiao Haiyang, pressing on and asking, why? If this person could brazenly run Dong Xiaoqing over right in front of my face, why couldn't he kill Zhou Huaijin himself? Are you telling me an ordinary little girl is a safer bet when it comes to killing someone than a professional? Also, I can't understand why they needed to burn the house. Was it simply to provoke the police? That's what I think, Xiao Haiyang said without any hesitation. Before we set out, Dong Xiaoqing sent me a text message saying that she had something to give me. We investigated afterwards and discovered that an unknown individual had stolen Dong Xiaoqing's phone number and sent me a message posing as her. When I went to investigate at the Dong house 3 days ago, I left a piece of paper with my contact information on it for Dong Xiaoqing. According to the timing, I received the text right around when the arsonist broke into the Dong house. It's likely the criminal saw my contact information and purposefully lured us there. There's no question that he attracted the police's attention. Besides that, we also investigated the delivery person at that express delivery company who regularly had contact with Dong Qian. This person's whereabouts since Dong Qian's death are unknown. Ooh, okay. Taran added, pulling out an evidence bag. There was a photocopy of an ID in it. The man in the photograph had a crew cut. His appearance was very unremarkable. He could disappear into a crowd in the blink of an eye. This is the personal information the vanished delivery person left behind at the company. It's a fake. The company's management has been a mess for a while. They must have just taken a look at the ID without verifying it, then simply employed him. Oh, goodness. Yeah, guys, maybe just restart if you're having issues, because, let me see on my side, but because I'm so... Okay, no, according to Twitch, though clearly I don't necessarily know if I can believe them, the stream is excellent. So if you're having issues, maybe just try refreshing and that hopefully will help. Okay. The company's management has been a mess for a while. They must have taken a look at the ID without verifying it and then simply employed him. Lu Wenzhou looked at Fei. What's your professional opinion? Fei cleared his throat, closed the notebook he'd been pretending to take notes in, and said, one person ran over Dong Xiaoqing at the Heng Ai hospital. At the same time, another person set fire to the Dong family's house. And before that, there was also a mysterious express delivery person who got in touch with Dong Qian. They know how to fake IDs. They have a certain level of technology. To put it another way, there may be more than 3 criminals involved in this case. They have planning and they have technology. It's likely an organized crime gang. which means that it's also likely that there is some kind of not just drug trafficking involved, but potentially dirty cops. I feel like if maybe okay, conspiracy theory time. Maybe there was a gang or a drug trafficking ring that was depending on Zhou Jin Mao for to cover them, and then he died, and Zhou Huajin kind of was making these moves to cleanse the company, shall we say, and take away that protection. And so they had Dong Qian, who was working for them as a drug mule. This is a lot of speculation, but anyway, stage. Well, firstly, kill Jin Mao, maybe in the hopes that the other guy, Zheng Kaifeng or whatever, would take over, and then when it seemed like Huai Jin would be the one to take over, that was a problem, so they had to have him be killed off as well. That's all I can think, but that feels ridiculous. It's buffering a lot. Is there a way to lower the quality of the stream on my end? Can't seem to find it. Let me quickly see if there's any hope. I'm not 100% sure, if I'm being honest. No, sorry about that playback. That was not intended at all. Oh, that it was unpleasant. If you go to the settings bar, there should be a toggle for the quality, though unfortunately it kind of seems like there's only one option, but maybe there will be more options on your side, I'm not sure. Okay, let us continue, because I got completely distracted with all my theories. Okay. As Fedu spoke, he very calmly stood up. Really looking rather like a scholar, he pulled over a whiteboard and drew a circle with a marker. For a gang, the simpler their goal is, the more unified they are, so it's easier for them to assemble. For example, mutual benefit. On top of that mutual benefit, they'll frequently employ a method of force or brainwashing to make their members stay loyal. Goodness. For example, the drug trafficking gang and Su Xiaolan, and the others is chained to kidnap and market children. Turn picked up. Right, even an international terrorist organization carrying the banner of so-called extremist beliefs still has behind it a complicated economic background and a chain of interests. Fedu smiled. It's very hard to tie a group of people together relying solely on psychopathy. I don't know if that's the right term anymore, but anyway. After all, being a psychopath is a very individual experience. Concretely, said Law and Jaw. For example, among those who all target the police, there are psychopaths who want to challenge the police force's intelligence, psychopaths who only want to kill policemen, and also psychopaths who want to have some sort of indescribable relations with people in uniform. Do you fall in that last category, Fedu? Like, that was a random one to add to the list. Everyone was coaxed into laughter. Owen Joel laughed dryly, interrupting the increasingly improper Fedu. He picked up the notebook Fedu had just shut and put it into the desk. Shut up, we're holding a meeting, be a little bit more serious. Feidu seriously changed the subject. Those sorts of particular differences will lead to instability among the gang, making it very hard to form an orderly organization. Therefore, Officer Shao, plotting Zhou Junmao's assassination, inciting Dong Xiaoqing, then killing her and setting fire to her house to get rid of the evidence. This whole series of events has has as its only motive to provoke the police. I personally think that it's very unrealistic. Taran said, so your conclusion is plotting to assassinate Zhou Junmao, sending something to Dong Xiaoqing, and lighting the fire for the police to see. This series of events either wasn't all done by the same group, or there was another reason. It's not very likely it was simply aimed at the police. Finding out what's actually going on will have to wait until we've had a chat with Zhou Huaijin. Xiao Haiyang didn't make a sound. Feidu looked at him. Actually, I think Officer Xiao's train of thought is very interesting. When a criminal does something incomprehensible, the average person will think that they're doing it to cover something up. Why do you think so firmly that it was to provoke the police? Because Dong Qian died too, Xiao Haiyang said suddenly. You've silently acknowledged the part about Dong Qian assassinating Zhou Junmao, but what if he was also a victim from a certain point of view? For matters the police can't resolve, give the victims an opportunity to take a tooth for a tooth. Haven't there been cases of vigilantism like this? Xiao Haiyang suddenly noticed that he'd said too much and tightly shut his mouth. Lo Wenzhou and Feidu's gaze fell on him simultaneously. The conference room temporarily quieted. Lo Wenzhou looked deeply at Xiao Haiyang. Feidu is coming with me to see Zhou Huaijin. Taran, try to find the mysterious delivery person based on the information and the photograph on the fake ID. Apart from that, keep searching the security cameras around Dong Xiaoqing's house to track down the arsonist's trail. It's likely this person changed his clothes after leaving the scene. Take note of his height and distinguishing characteristics. Meeting adjourned. Feidu's gaze swept the place where he'd sat, not finding the notebook he'd just been holding, and he was feeling somewhat suspicious when he heard someone behind him give a "Hey!" Did he miss Lo Wenzhou putting it away? He turned his head. Lo Wenzhou opened the notebook and smacked it face down against Feidu's chest. The page it was open to was the one Feidu had been on while pretending to take notes during the meeting. Actually, he'd been scrolling idly. It was a profile sketch of Lo Wenzhou sitting next to him with his chin in his hand. Oh my goodness, this man is besotted. That was an unexpected bit of candy that we just got. Damn, okay. Chapter 81, Macbeth 22. Letting your mind wander during a meeting, Lo Wenzhou lowered his voice, poking Feidu's shoulder. You've had enough to eat and drink now, and your blood sugar isn't low, right? Disgraceful. Feidu hadn't deliberately evaded anyone when he'd been drawing. He very easily took the notebook and flipped through it. He spread his hands. Where did the other one go? Shishong, why'd you rip out a page of my notebook? With justice on his side, Lo Wenzhou said, I confiscated it. Then he restrained his smile and opened the door of the interrogation room. My goodness. The sound of them coming in the door startled Zhou Huaijin. He looked up emptily at Lo Wenzhou. In less than a day, this person had gone from a youthful genius whose age couldn't be seen at all to a haggard-faced, middle-aged man with drooping eyes. For women and men alike, a bright and shiny sack of skin was this fragile. If just a bit of vigor vanished like smoke, The body would be past its freshness date in the blink of an eye. Yeah, it is crazy what shock and grief can do to your body, but before Lu and Zhou could speak, Zhou Jin broke the silence. He said hoarsely, "Can you show me the results of the paternity test?" Lu and Zhou froze, but a folder was passed over from behind him. Fei seemed to have expected that he would ask for this. He was prepared. "Yours, Bai Xin's, and Yang Bo's are all here." Zhou Jin took a deep breath and spent a full minute just opening that thin folder, as if he was opening the tragedy of his life, his hands shaking dreadfully. Fei altered his earlier slightly malicious bearing, giving him a fresh glass of warm water. "Wet your throat before we chat. I think President Zhou is a man of faith. According to your views, people have souls. Huai Xin's worries have passed, and he must not have gone far. Don't make him see you unwell." Oh! Let me just see here. Paving mode. Remember this. Good luck. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope you enjoy the rewatch. For a person experiencing extreme grief, this sort of kindly advice was simply a powerful means of provoking tears. Past the end of his endurance, Zhou Jin let out a sob, his whole body shaking for a long time. He took the tissue Fei gave him and wiped his face. "I'll tell you whatever I can. What other questions do you have? Do you want the identities of the people who helped me fake the kidnapping?" President Hu has already given up those details, Lu and Zhou said. "Mr. Zhou, I don't know whether you've heard. Dong Xiaoqing, the killer who murdered your little brother, was hit by a car and died not long after escaping from Heng Ai Hospital." Zhou Jin's expression congealed for a moment. Coldly, he said, "Really? That's really too good for her. Down." "The person who hit her did it deliberately," Luanzhou added, gaze fixed on his expression. Zhou Jin backed up, crossing his arms in front of his chest, adopting a very defensive posture. "If I'd done such a thing, I hope I would have done it myself." "President Zhou," said Fei, "why was Dong Xiaoqing silenced shortly after committing the crime? Evidently someone was afraid she would say something after being arrested. Though she was the killer, she was only a knife. Don't you want to know who was holding the knife?" Zhou Jin's cheeks immediately tensed. That was a good way to get him to actually think about it. "No matter what, Dong Xiaoqing is dead," Fei continued. "However much you hate her, however much you want to hack her to pieces, it's no use. Even if you could drag her out to flog her corpse, she still wouldn't feel anything. Are you reconciled?" Zhou Jin's feelings were instantly aroused. He looked at Fei, his eyes bloodshot. After a long time, he asked, "What do you want?" "Of the questions I asked you before, there's one you still haven't answered," Fei said. "Why haven't you asked the reason Dong Xiaoqing wanted to kill you? Do you know something? Did you know Dong Xiaoqing?" "I didn't know her," said Zhou Jin. "I'd never seen her before. At least, if I'd suspected there was something wrong with her, I wouldn't have had the bodyguards let her in when she approached." "So you remember something later?" Zhou Jin must have been parched. He picked up the water Fei had poured him and drank it in one gulp. "I really have done some dishonorable things, but Huai Xin was innocent in all of this, from beginning to end. If you can get justice for him, I don't care if the Zhou clan goes bankrupt and becomes worthless here and now, whether I'm the genuine heir or not. Mr. Fei, you understand what I mean?" Fei weighed his words and expression. Like a nimbly reacting chameleon, he at once accordingly adjusted the tempo and tone of his speech, very directly saying, "I understand. You profited off your company at a precarious moment. It seems you didn't take offense, so I won't apologize." Ooh. Zhou Jin looked up at the ceiling, the light mercilessly jabbing his pupils. He seemed to hesitate, not knowing where to start. Only after a good while did he say, "Have you had a positive outcome in your investigation of the Zhou clan's public welfare fund suspected of money laundering? If you haven't found anything, please look a little closer. There must be something there. Unfortunately, they always defended against me, not letting me near the related business. So I have no evidence now, but I know that the Zhou clan isn't a bunch of Buddhist devotees. They didn't only use legal means when building the family fortune." Luo Zhou asked, "Are you talking about Zhou Junmao being suspected of murdering Zhou Yahua?" "Not only that," Zhou Huijin shook his head. "It's not only that thing, steal a hook and they hang you, steal the whole country and they make you a prince. The Zhou clan's general headquarters are abroad. The waters are deep. After so many years of success and fame, there are many things that there's no way to investigate. In the midst of the shock after Dong Xiaoqing struck, I remembered something. Many years ago, my life intersected with hers. This has to do with Jin Kaifeng." "Okay. You must know Jin Kaifeng's origins by now. He started out as an underling for a human smuggler and, and afterwards joined up with Zhou Junmao and went around everyone in the style of a successful personage." Sorry. But actually, inferior people are always inferior. I don't like that sentiment. They can never change what's in their bones. To this day, he hasn't learned how to stand up as a civilized human being. The corner of Feidu's eye twitched lightly, and the tip of his pen paused briefly on the page. But Zhou Huijin was wholly unaware, entirely sunk into his recollection. He went on. "This must have been over 20 years ago, shortly after Huaixin was born. My mother's postpartum depression was becoming more serious. She was nearly a madwoman, with no way to communicate. She had no attention to spare for him, so I moved his crib into my room and kept him with me every day. I feel sad for the mother, but I also feel sad for him because no child should have to go through that kind of parentification." Lorenzo looked him over. "I've heard that a little whelp who howls every night can bring new parents to the point of collapse for quite a few years. Mr. Zhou was very patient from a young age. Couldn't your family afford a nanny to take care of a small child? There aren't many young men in the world who would sincerely like a baby. I was only afraid." Zhou Huijin gently closed his eyes and took a deep breath, reaching over a hand towards Lu Wenzhou. "Could you give me a cigarette? Thank you." The fact that I could survive right under Zhou Junmao's nose relied entirely on my mother's protection. But her mental and physical state were getting worse by the day. Then I was desperate. Looking at her every day, I saw my fate hanging in the balance. Huaixin was a straw I clutched at randomly. I hardly left him during this time. Sometimes I even crushed up my food and fed him a mouthful or two. I thought that no matter what Junmao wanted to do, he'd have scruples about doing anything to his own child. I mean, not necessarily, but I think unfortunately, Zhou Jin making himself useful probably did help, which is really a sad thought. Huaixin had wet the bed that night. He was howling. I got up in a blur to change his diapers. When I had taken off the old ones, I found that there wasn't any new ones, and was going to go to the storage room to get some. But I found that the lights were on in the study on the second floor, and Zhou Jin, who had been away from home for several days, was having a secret meeting with Zheng Kaifeng inside. At the time, the conglomerate's main strategy was directed at East Asia. The Zhou clan wanted to take advantage of the country encouraging foreign investments to seize the market and get cheap labor. Zheng Kaifeng personally took the helm in this. His suitcase was at the door then. He must have just gotten off the plane. If Huaixin hadn't been waiting, when I saw the two of them, I definitely would have turned back and run for it. But there was nothing I could do. I had to stay as quiet as I could and pass by the study, creeping towards the storage room. But just then I heard Zheng Kaifeng say, "Dead as a doornail, don't worry. There's absolutely no trace." That sort of thing. At this point, Zhou Jin paused and put his hands to his forehead, pressing harder on his temples, and took a deep breath. When you live each moment in fear for your life, you know the feeling. You'd be especially sensitive towards certain key terms. As soon as I heard the word dead, before I had time to put it together with its context, my first thought was that they were going to kill me. I was so scared my hands and feet turned cold and I froze in place. Then I heard George and Mao say, "I saw the news. It seems there was a little accident." Then Zheng Kaifeng said, "You mean Dong?" There's no need to worry about him. He doesn't know anything. He wasn't looking where he was going and got tangled up. It's his bad luck. Zhou Junmao laughed and said, "There's nothing in the world money won't buy. It doesn't matter if it's a little expensive as long as it saves trouble." "Wait a minute," Luo Zhou said suddenly. "Mr. Zhou, could you give me an exact time? When was this?" It had been more than 20 years after all. The fact that Zhou Jin could roughly repeat the words was the contribution of his extreme terror and racing adrenaline at the time. It was really very hard for him to remember other details immediately. He involuntarily frowned slightly. Feidu examined his weary face and rhythmically tapped the wooden table with his pen cap. President Zhou, studying and working during the day and taking care of a small child at night is difficult even for an adult. You must still have been in school then. Did he have any impact on your performance? Were you sleepy during class? I was alright. My classwork wasn't serious, only basic courses every afternoon. Zhou Jin blurted an answer. At this point he seemed to catch the distant tail of his memories. Right. That was business school. I was attending business school at the time. I was 17. It was my first year. That was 21 years ago. You said the door of the study wasn't closed? Feidu continued. Then it must have been winter and cold. Then it must not have been winter and cold, nor summer when you would need the air conditioning on. Right, it wasn't cold or warm then. If it wasn't September, then it was October. My mum's mental state was fragile. Once night fell, no one would casually move around in the house, and most of the people employed in the house didn't understand Chinese, so they dared to talk with the door open. Luo and Zhou exchanged a look with Feidu, then looked down and sent Taran a text message. September or October 21 years ago, did something happen to the Zhou clan or the Dong family? Taran's voice quickly came through his earpiece. It did. I was just going to tell you, on September 16th of that year, Dong Xiaoqing's mother died in a car crash. I mean, I think from the context you can kind of infer it. The corner of Luo Wenju's eye twitched. The date of Zhou Junmao's death in the car crash was also the 16th, the first day Fei Du had taken up his post. When I'd heard up to that point, I didn't dare to linger any longer and quickly ran, but I always remembered the event. Information wasn't flourishing then. It wasn't easy if you were abroad and wanted to know domestic news. I saw a checked luggage tag on Zheng Kaifeng's luggage and saw that the abbreviation for the city of destination was Yan City, so I secretly found a friend I trusted who was studying abroad in China and asked her to help me find information related to Yan City, the surname Dong, and unusual death. Luo Wenju looked down and read through the old news articles his colleagues outside had sent to his phone. Did you find the news that a well-known Chinese businessman had died in a car crash? Yes, 3 months later, the company he'd built up on his own was acquired by a foreign investor. The source of the foreign investment was a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands by the Zhou clan. Zhou Haijin spread his hands and said, "You see, when a murderer kills someone and receives no punishment, when he acts for the second time, he'll be even more ruthless." To draw an inappropriate analogy, it's like someone who cheats at a game will develop a habit of cheating generally. 2 hooligans become famous entrepreneurs and succeeded in entering polite society by killing one Zhou Yawo. If they killed another roadblock, they'd succeed in taking over his domestic network, making an advance of 10 years at once. While foreign investments were being encouraged at the time, the truly good projects wouldn't go to the companies that weren't on their home soil. President Fei, you've had some contact with business. Do you know how much it costs to accumulate the connections needed to compete with local trademarks in a strange place? Fei Du sighed. I also know that buying a truck driver who just happens to be looking for death can't be done for any amount of money. Your honored father was the sort of person who'd flip the chessboard if he couldn't win. That woman, the one named Dong, Zhou Haijin covered his eyes with his hands. In a rather weak voice, he said, "When she struck, she said something only I heard it. And Huaixin, what did she say?" "She said, 1 wasn't enough. Why couldn't you let even my dad go?" Luo Wenju frowned. "What does that mean?" "I don't know. She seemed to think that by some means I'd use that responsible driver's, her dad's desire for revenge to bring about Zhou Junmao's car crash." Zhou Haijin shook his head. "But my capabilities really aren't that great. If Zhou Junmao's death really was deliberate, I recommend you go to Zheng Kaifeng." Ooh, there's a lot of implications in that. Luo Wenju frowned, suddenly remembering what Dong Xiaoqing had said to him before her death. He's one of those people too. If Dong Xiaoqing's mother's death hadn't been an accident but a conspiracy, then the responsible driver and the target, both dying on the scene, was exactly the same circumstances as in Zhou Junmao's car crash. Could they have a group of road assassins who didn't stint to give up their own lives to take another's? Was there a death fleet under Yan City's bright daylight? Luo Wenju stood up at once. "Bring Zheng Kaifeng in." Taran had been listening in on Zhou Haijin's interrogation. "Wait a minute. Dong Xiaoqing thought that Zhou Haijin was the killer behind the scenes? I don't quite understand. Why would she think that?" "That depends on how much information was in the mysterious package she received. For example, did she know that Zhou Haijin plotted his own kidnapping? that young Bo wasn't the Zhou clan's illegitimate son at all, that Zheng Kaifeng and Zhou Junmao had conspired together at the car crash 20 years ago. Fei Du, coming out of the interrogation room, put in a word. When Zhou Huaijin called the police, he made a lot of noise and talked a lot of nonsense to stir things up. Among that, he said he thought that someone had divulged Zhou Junmao's itinerary and the make and model of the car he was riding in to pull Dongqian into the rumor that this was a power struggle between the wealthy involving an assassination. For Dongqian to succeed in his suicidal attack, there must have been someone inside the Zhou clan who was in touch with him, collecting that information for him. Who do you think that person is most likely to be? Feng Chao said, also, no one in Zhou Huaijin's family knew he was actually Zhou Junmao's biological son. For example, when Zhou Huaijin was little, it's possible his parents simply weren't sure, and there was also people saying that the child looked like Mr. Wang from next door. After all, Zhou Huaijin really doesn't look like Zhou Junmao. Then there was a friend who came over to say that there was a new technology that could make a paternity determination, but with as big a conglomerate as the Zhou clan, it definitely wouldn't do to make a big fuss about this kind of thing and give people a show, so they could only do it privately, in secret. The friend volunteered to help, just like Zhou Huaijin framing Yan Bo. Just then the phone rang wildly, interrupting Ling Chao. For some reason, she had a foreboding feeling at the moment she picked it up. Hello? From the other end came the voice of one of the criminal policemen who had been set to follow Zheng Kaifeng. Chiar, tell the boss, Zheng Kaifeng's running for it. The worst part is the fact that he's running for it doesn't even necessarily mean that he's guilty, or at least not guilty of this. He might just be guilty of a lot of other things. But yeah, that is it for the night. We actually ran a little bit over time, but I'm glad we got to the next chapter. And I'm really glad that we actually didn't leave on a sour note in terms of where Lo and Zhou and Fei Du are currently kind of standing with each other, because I feel like it had the potential to go a bit sour there, and then Lo and Zhou just kind of nipped it in the bud, which I really appreciate. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought in the comments. If you're here on the rerun or playback, I hope you will still have enjoyed it. And if all goes well, I should be seeing you guys on Thursday, same time, for the next read along, because I'm gonna try and get back into the regularly scheduled programming, at least for the lives for now. So see you then. 再见。